And here we go. Welcome in, everyone. Happy Monday. You're watching the VSO Gun Channel, and I thank you for tuning in today. Today, to lead off with, we have to talk about the difference between a position and a principle. When I think of principles, I think of things that are made of granite, like a pillar that cannot be moved, cannot be changed without destroying it. And then around that solid thing are a whole bunch of positions that can be taken up by folks. So if you have a principle, it cannot be altered. And oftentimes this is a real sticking point, and this is, in my opinion, why the percentages that we see as far as participation in elections and things like that are so historically low, because people expect, particularly on this side of the aisle, for the people that we are sending to elected office to have principles. They get up there and they talk about those principles, and then when they get to where they're supposed to be going and doing what they're supposed to be doing, adhering to those principles, they take up a compromised position around the base of it and expect you to think that that's okay. And that's why disenfranchisement of the voter base is at an all-time high. They don't have principles. They've taken up positions. Today's video is going to force me to call out two folks that I would normally agree with. And in fact, most of the time I do agree with, both Harmeet Dillon, the Associate Attorney General, and Mark Smith from Four Boxes Diner. I think that I respect these two folks immensely. They have established themselves as real titans in the space, and I rely on them to provide me with information when I'm outside my depth, because they're both attorneys. I'm not an attorney, and I expect when I go to them that they are going to give me principled information. And unfortunately, over the weekend, we saw a display of the exact opposite. We saw positions. And what I'm talking about is their defense of Pam Bondi.
So what we want to do is let law enforcement come in and take the guns.
Good.
This is a person that has clearly displayed that they do not have Second Amendment principles and are willing to compromise whatever satellite Second Amendment persuasions they might have when it suits them. And as time goes on, I get the sense that she really doesn't have any constitutional principles either.
There's free speech, and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people, so we show them that some action is better than no action?
We will absolutely target you, go after you, if you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything, and that's across the aisle.
Today's video is brought to you by XS Sites. I'm out here today preaching the good word of the XS Big Dot site. If you don't like the XS Big Dot site, then you're wrong. No, I'm just kidding. I started using the big dots because I took a low light force on force class. If you've never had that experience, I could totally see why somebody wouldn't select that site, but it is my go-to site. They offer a whole bunch of other things out there, and XS has been a big time, long time supporter of the channel. So I very much appreciate them supporting the mission here at the VSO Gun Channel. Let's get into the video.
There's free speech, and then there's hate speech.
So when the broader community comes together and says, hey, this person that you've got in this position is not displaying the principles that we expect of her, it isn't something that just comes out of nowhere. This isn't just some made up stuff from some controlled opposition or something like that. And that's what what these folks are acting like. No, this is real grassroots opinion on how Bondi has acted since she's gotten into that position. For the first 3 months of this administration, I was doing videos like basically every single day displaying how bad and how off the Department of Justice was. I had to give up. I had to reformat my bad things list like 10 times, and I just gave up. Like, I just assumed that the pro Second Amendment meter was tanked all the way down into the negative, and there was no way that it was ever coming back. And the trend has basically continued. There's been a little bit of a bump here or there where they like, oh, well, you know, this one's going to look really bad, so we have to do something about it. But when people say, hey, you know, this attorney general, really not great on the Second Amendment, that isn't just a loud fringe. That's the general consensus. So the Second Amendment as a principle, this is not rocket surgery. It's pretty basic stuff. You, as a human being, have a right to keep and bear arms for all lawful purposes. There is one limit on that right to keep and bear arms, and that is that you cannot use the right to keep and bear arms to infringe on the continuum of civil liberties of everyone else. Life, liberty, pursuit of property. You cannot use your rifle to show up and threaten some business out of pursuing their pursuit of property. You cannot show up to some political rally somewhere and start waving your rifle around to disperse people. And you cannot take someone else's life with that weapon unless they are endangering yours. That encompasses every single facet of the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. From protecting you against the crackhead that's trying to break into your house in the middle of the night and will murder you over $5 so they can get their rock, to the government trying to put you in cattle cars. And I don't know how else to put this, but the Attorney General falls woefully short of those metrics.
Instantly, and they can do it with anonymity. Put it in this app.
Good.
It'll go in the app, and it'll go to one clearinghouse with state law enforcement.
When a Democrat stumps for full-blown confiscation, you and I at least know where they stand and what the threat level is if they were to take power. What is often more dangerous is when you deal with Republicans, particularly the kind who care more about image and polls than you do about restoring God-given rights.
That was Dudley Brown of National Association for Gun Rights. And just a couple days ago, I made a video about how one of his organizations was wrong to attack Ava Flanell in her recent attainment of political office in Colorado as an established Second Amendment force. Here, he's 100% correct. Just because somebody wears an R on their jacket doesn't mean that they have Second Amendment principles. And Pam Bondi has established that she doesn't. And in response to that video, Harmeet Dillon said this: Bondi is the most pro-Second Amendment AG in U.S. history. Time out. Stop. I'm just going to stop you right there, ma'am. With all due respect, that's not good enough. To say that she is better than Merrick Garland, that bar is set so super low. Congratulations, golf clap. We expect better. Kurt, you're just bringing up a whole bunch of bad clips from her past. Both are long guns with shortened barrels, which are dangerous because they are more powerful than traditional handguns, yet are easier to conceal. And both involve a characteristic that makes the firearm especially attractive to criminals while adding little, if any, functionality to the firearm for lawful use. That unprincipled take right there was written in May of this year by the Department of Justice under the direction of Pam Bondi. And that unprincipled take was used, news as of 4 days ago, to prevent a case from gaining certiorari at the Supreme Court. Now, whether you believe that that particular case should go to the Supreme Court or not is irrelevant. The point is that this Department of Justice is willing to use drivel like that to accomplish their ends. Not principled. Not good enough. There are many, many more. Those are just some of the short barrel rifles. I didn't even bother going to the shotgun wall. But it illustrates my point. Uniquely suited for criminal use. Now, Mark Smith from Four Boxes Diner made a dedicated piece on apologizing for this particular take from the Department of Justice, but I would like to focus on a different video of his where he comes out and defends Harmeet Dillon, who's getting ruthlessly ratioed right now on X over her post defending Pam Bondi and how everybody pretty much hates her guts. I don't know what Mark is about these days. Like I said, I have an immense amount of respect for the man. I don't know if he's like bucking for a position in the administration or what have you. I don't know. But I gotta say, uniquely awful take on Pam Bondi.
There is 0% chance, in my opinion, that President Donald Trump is going to do anything with Pam Bondi where she is delivering a record of 25-0 in cases before this U.S. Supreme Court between basically mid-February 2025 and today. That's like a perfect record at the Supreme Court, the most important court in America, under Pam Bondi's watch at the Department of Justice. You're not going to fire the head coach if he gives you a 25-0 record in any sport. It ain't happening.
That's a halfway decent analogy. But you would fire that head coach if he was caught abusing the players. Meritocracy is central to the American experience. However, regardless of how good you are at what you do, there are some things that once you violate the principle, there's no coming back from.
It is a law and order style presidency where he doesn't like criminals. The Supreme Court doesn't like criminals. The Department of Justice doesn't like criminals. Just the way it is. That's what Republicans are known for. We don't view criminals as our voting bloc like, let's say, the Democratic Party does.
Well, that would depend on your definition of criminal. Because remember, when we're talking about Second Amendment stuff, that movement tends to go from peaceable citizen to criminal with lots of jail time and big fines rather rapidly with the stroke of a pen. Is Matthew Hoover a criminal? Does he deserve to spend the rest of his life in prison? Because he's probably going to die in prison of cancer because he can't get treatment? Because they drew on a credit card size piece of metal? The government lied about it? Couldn't get it to work, but they said that they could? Convicted? Is he a criminal? Is Adam Mayak a criminal that deserves to be in prison for some collector's items that he was selling? Non-functional gun parts that the Department of Justice and the ATF took and turned into things that still didn't fucking work. Convicted. In prison. Is Brian Malinowski a criminal? Did deserve to be shot in the face while defending his wife from a bunch of people that broke into his house in the dead of night? Nothing has been done about any of those situations. So don't stand up here and tell me that Pam Bondi is the greatest Second Amendment advocate that has ever lived, because it's complete and utter fucking bullshit. This is the same person who wanted the super ATF. The same person that thought it was a good idea to combine the DEA and the ATF, giving basically the ATF limitless resources. We need to be running in the opposite direction. The ATF, why we can't get rid of it without an act of Congress, could be relegated to the paper-pushing agency that it was originally designed to be. But we aren't there. Instead, we're talking about giving them more weapons when we should be taking their guns away. Don't tell me that Pam Bondi has the Second Amendment's back.
The Attorney General's Second Amendment Enforcement Task Force has settled, declined to appeal, or change positions in appropriate cases from the Biden administration's to better protect law-abiding citizens' Second Amendment rights. The Department of Justice has recognized, for example, that suppressors are within the scope of the Second Amendment.
Stop. Ma'am, I was there. I've made the videos before you got there. We had to beat the Department of Justice over the head with the suppressor thing for like a month. Don't give me that they did that on their own volition. They did it because they got their balls caught on fire. The point is that if they had the principles, they wouldn't get it wrong in the first place. The Second Amendment community is sick of being sidelined for other interests in this government. Donald Trump said,
under a Trump administration, all of those Biden disasters get ripped up and torn out. My first week, but maybe my first day in office, okay?
Last I checked, it's October 13th. It's a little past first day, first week. And what you guys over at the Department of Justice and the entire executive branch are feeling right now is fatigue of the people. You say one thing and you do another. 2 steps forward, 9 steps back. That's what we're experiencing. For instance, the president had an opportunity to stand on principle, and he didn't do it. He could have forced Congress to include the reforms to the National Firearms Act, eliminating regulations on short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, and AOWs and suppressors in the big, beautiful backstab bill. But instead, he wanted to make his fictitious timeline. Stop apologizing for your boss's poor performance. And same thing with all the other people out there. They want to apologize for these people that continually benefit from the votes that they got from the Second Amendment community and then get there and take compromised positions instead of principles. It's going to be a bloodbath in the midterms. Because I speak for at least 70% of this audience when I said that we ain't coming. It's better that the government be divided, and as far as I'm concerned, the thing can be shut down for the next 3 years. Because it's clear to everybody who's paying any iota of attention that you're just going to squander what you got in interest balance, Second Amendment. But, there's this shiny thing over here that we actually want to do.
Assault rifles, AK-47s, AR-15s.
Who are you going to replace her with? In sum, I am a gun owner and a longtime advocate for Second Amendment rights. I have fought in private practice for the broadest possible scope of federal and state gun rights.
I rest my case. We expect results. We expect reform. We expect justice. Stop making excuses for it. Stop apologizing for not doing it. And go fucking do it.